Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, I want to go ahead and talk about Bitcoin and the broader market. And I want to go ahead and put things into context into the current macroeconomic reality that we're living in right now, and why Bitcoin has shown so far to have a surprising amount of strength when we've seen nothing but market weakness over the past couple of months. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to follow me on X and also on Threads. So right now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Bitcoin price. Bitcoin over the last 7 days is up 0.11%, so really not up really much at all over the last week. But putting this into the proper context of what's going on in the macroeconomic picture is incredibly important. So all you have to do is just take a look at Google. You could just search for, the economy or recessions, and we can just scroll down and just see the huge number of negative articles about there, basically predicting a recession for the US economy, and as a result, the dropping most likely of equities. Okay, so there has been a noticeable shift in the mindset of major economists. A lot of them are saying that a recession is coming, a recession is likely, and as a result, equities have been hit pretty hard over the last couple of months. In fact, if we go ahead and take a look at our NASDAQ index, we can see over the last month, it's down almost 3%. If we take a look at our S&P 500, down a little bit over 2.6%, all right? And when you compare these to Bitcoin's price, however, things become very interesting. So if you take a look at Bitcoin over the last month, we can see it's actually up 0.5% in the last month. Okay, so these fears of a recession have hit traditional equities like stocks and bonds to an extent, but they haven't really done much for Bitcoin over the last month. And this is surprising given the fact that September is seasonally a very weak month for Bitcoin. Now, I kind of attribute this to something I talked about in the last video, which is the short-term versus long-term holder supply. And we said in the last video that's actually started to peak, and it continues to go higher. And in fact, it's up at about 83% right now. So it's up about 83%. So 83% of total Bitcoin is held by long-term holders. Okay, so that means people have held Bitcoin for usually around 139 days or 155 days. And these long-term holders are much less likely to sell. In fact, they tend to be in it for the long run. And this adds a significant amount of price stability to Bitcoin, whereas you see the S&P 500 being down and the NASDAQ being down in the last month, Bitcoin has mostly remained kind of range-bound. And if we take a look at our chart TA here, we can kind of see this play out in about the last month. Now, we did have the large drop here from July and August, but again, we saw that with equities. But Bitcoin has remained so far fairly resilient. And when it comes to our Bitcoin chart TA, what we're looking at right now is for Bitcoin to hold this 26,400 level. Currently, we have the 200-day moving average acting as a resistance here at about 27,000. And as long as Bitcoin holds this level, then I think we have a good chance to come back up and test resistance here at 27.7. Now, that being said, the past couple of days, we've seen some very weak volume, and this support level has been tested many times. So it is entirely possible that we break through the support, and if we break through the support level, then we are most likely going to wind up seeing, going down here, we're most likely going to come down to about 25, maybe 25.3, 25.5, somewhere in this range, and then possibly even down to 25K. So this is an area that I'm watching very closely here to make sure this level holds. Bitcoin has held up so far pretty well over the last month, but again, we are in a very historically weak month for Bitcoin. September and August tend to be the weakest months for Bitcoin seasonally. And I wouldn't be surprised if we came back down to this area right here in between these two blue lines, between these two support levels, and we see some more accumulation here in this area as well. Now, the other thing I want to draw your attention to is the strength and health of the Bitcoin blockchain as a whole. So if we take a look at our transaction count, we can actually see that the transaction count, or the number of transactions that are happening on the blockchain, have increased and in fact are moving up in a significant way over the last couple of months. And this right here it's so important to realize that the dichotomy going on between the traditional markets where people are panicking and they're selling and they don't want anything to do with anything, and Bitcoin's just over here and just chugging along. People are doing what they do on the blockchain, and we're starting to see transactions increase from earlier on in the year to significant levels later on in the year, where we are right now in September. So this is showing that the blockchain, the network, is still being used, and people are still using Bitcoin for various use cases, and it remains healthy. And if we take a look at our number of active addresses, we can see here that just like with our number of total transactions, we're seeing a very nice uptrend in the number of active addresses. And again, kind of in the middle of what's arguably a kangaroo type of market where the prices are up and the prices are down, the prices are up and the prices are down. We're seeing a steady increase in the number of active addresses and transactions, and people are just using the blockchain without concerning themselves with the price that much. And I think that's really important when we establish why Bitcoin has been so stable when the traditional equities and the traditional equity markets have been so rocky over the last month. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is what's going on with the traders themselves. So we go over here to take a look at our usual futures, our perpetual futures kind of map. What we're seeing here is another reason why the Bitcoin price has been so stable recently, and that's because of the number of open interest, or the number of contracts that are open right now, have actually been fairly low. So there's very low volatility, and that low volatility is kind of lending itself to Bitcoin moving sideways and not really having massive volatility to the downside or big volatility to the upside. We're not seeing big upside or downside swings because, quite frankly, if we zoom out here, we can actually see that the open interest has been still depressed, and there hasn't really been a lot of action going on here in the trading for the futures markets. This is the daily here. It's peaked out here at about October of 2022, and now we're seeing it's coming all the way down here to where we are currently. And that last big flush we had in August kind of really took the wind out of everyone's sails, and now we're seeing less volatility throughout the past couple of weeks. And I think that that's actually a good thing, because less people speculating, less people trading means that the price can remain stable, whereas everything else is falling. And that's honestly a very good thing if you think of Bitcoin as a store of value akin to like a gold, and you don't want the price to fluctuate wildly or for it to always track the NASDAQ, okay? Because I think it's important that we have some divergence here from NASDAQ and tech stocks. So we've seen basically nothing going on here in the trading, the perpetual futures market. It has been kind of alternating between positive and negative funding rates. So we've seen the longs and shorts really battle it out here for a little bit. And it seems like the longs currently are in control, but we'll see what happens. This is traditionally on the weekends, we're going to wind up seeing some very low volume. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get kind of a low volume bounce over the weekend here, and then we return back to just sideways action after that. But I also want to draw your attention to the liquidation heat maps. This is something I've been taking a look at recently on CoinGlass. Liquidation heat maps is 24-hour. And if we take a look at this, we can see that there are significant liquidity levels here, starting from about 26,700 and moving all the way up here to about 26,800. And then below that, below the current price here at about 26,300 and 26,200. So at both levels here, at both above the current price and below the current price, we're starting to see large levels of liquidity here. So Bitcoin does tend to get pulled towards these areas of liquidity. And if it does approach, like we said here, at about 26,300, you're going to wind up seeing a significant number of long liquidations below this level. And if we go up here to 26,700, you're going to see significant short liquidations above these levels. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin fluctuate between these two levels as we continue this kangaroo market, and longs and shorts both get crushed as traders try to figure out which direction Bitcoin is ultimately heading. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is what's going on in the week coming up here. And so Monday, we have nothing really. Tuesday, we have the new home sales and S&P Case and Shiller home price index. This is going to be important for people who are looking for houses and trying to get houses cheaper. And this will also hopefully help contribute to the reduction of inflation. There's a consumer confidence report coming out that day as well. Wednesday, not a huge day. Thursday, you get to jobless claims. Okay, very important to figure out where jobless claims are right now, because the Fed could be taking this into account, whether they raise or just stay at the current interest rate levels for the next meeting. We also have a GDP revision number, very important GDP revision, because if GDP remains positive, then we're not going to wind up getting those recessions, and those recessionary calls will continue to be put on hold as long as we get these positive GDP numbers, okay? We also have some Fed chair and Fed governors speaking as well. And then Friday, very important, we have the PCE index. This is the Fed's preferred method of measuring inflation, PCE. So your personal consumption expenditures, and specifically looking at the core PCE, and we're going to be looking for that to actually come in lower than the estimate here of 0.2%. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to wind up seeing some minor volatility throughout the week. There's nothing that's like super important that grabs me as something that's going to be a major volatility event for the week, but there are some very important reports that are coming out that could dictate the direction of the Fed in the next Fed meeting. Okay, so that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the resilience of Bitcoin in this current kind of kangaroo market that we're seeing. And let me know what you guys are planning on doing with your Bitcoin holdings. Personally, I'm not planning on adding unless we go below this support here at 25,000, or if we're anywhere around 25K, maybe I consider adding to my positions at that level. But until then, I am going to be remaining on the sidelines and seeing how this all plays out. That's all I've got for you guys today, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.